So Genesis 1:26, the creation of man. And God said, let us make man in our image, after our likeness, and let them have dominion over the fish of the sea, and over the fowl of the air, and over the cattle, and over all earth, and over every creeping thing that creepeth upon the earth. So God created man in his own image. In the image of God created he him, male and female created he them. And God blessed them, and God said unto them, be fruitful and multiply, and replenish the earth and subdue it, and have dominion over the fish of the sea, and over the fowl of the air, and over every living thing that moveth upon the earth. And God said, behold, I have given you every herb bearing seed, which is upon the face of the earth, and every tree in which is the fruit of a tree yielding seed. To you it shall be for meat. So this passage from the book of Genesis in the Hebrew Torah, the Christian Old Testament, supplies us with a very deep type. And it is the type of the human being as domesticator. Now, this idea of domestication comes to the idea of the dome, the house, the don of a house is called a dong because it's related to the domes, the house, all this. So taking what is wild and bringing it into the house is domesticating. That's what happens on the Western steppe. The supposed Proto-Indo-European culture would have broken the first horses, thus enabling them to traverse the steppe at exceptional pace and being the world's first cavalry. Anyway, so that's an example of the truth, the deep anthropological truth of this type, this image supplied in Genesis as an anthropological paradigm. The Game Boy series Pokémon, which came out in the 1990s, is entirely predicated upon this type of human being as domesticator. And here's the thing about Genesis, what I just let me make a closer connection for you. And so remember, it was Genesis 1:29, and God said, behold, I have given you every herb bearing seed, which is upon the face of the earth, and every tree in which is the fruit of a tree yielding seed. To you it shall be for meat. So, okay, Pokemon. What's this got to do with it? Well, the first Pokemon is a seed, and the seed is given to the player by oak. So there is a tree which gives forth a seed yielding fruit because it is with this starter, and you have a choice of starters, and we can talk about that other stuff, but like just as like the literal first Pokemon, um in the series that's given, at least, it's quite interesting that it's a seed. And it's given by Professor Oak, who is he's named after an oak. The thing about oaks and branches, right, is that human knowledge has like a tree-like structure. And this is gets to like the Porphyrian tree, which is the basis of all logic, is just to say that like um a species has a genera and like there can be two particular instantiations of a thing, but they're united by a higher generality. That's a branching structure called a Porphyrian tree. And that's what a Pokedex is. So like a Pokedex that Oak gives you. So like the character called Oak, like a tree, which is also, by the way, the a proposed definition of the etymology of the word druid, the ancient world Celtic word druid. It's like tree knower or oak knower, the one who knows the oak. So the Professor Oak is like a druid who has this thing called a Pokedex, which is analogous to a biological encyclopedia or a biological project of mapping the specific differentiations of life. And the way the Pokemon differentiate is through elements. So there will be fire, water, grass types, electric types, psychic types, and others. And these types are like the spaces that the Pokemon branch out into. But it's like the tree of life is what I'm talking about, right? So all biology is based on the tree of life image as a principle. And indeed, Aristotle, who is a key figure in the development of logic, and remember what I was saying about porphyry and trees and logic. Aristotle also went to the island of Lesbos and was an early pioneer in zoology. So this whole thing of taming the creatures of the sea, the air, the land, etc. Taming, like no other animal, just to like make this like bring emphasis to this, no other animal does indeed um tame other animals. Okay, like what's happening is like a word pattern or a logos is being issued from the human being, and that is being obeyed, submitted to by the animals. And the reason for that is because humans will offer food, shelter, protection, these sort of things, but also, yeah, just like sustenance to the animals. Also good care and good love. Um, but that idea of taming what is wild, because what is wild is by definition beyond the human will. Like that's a phenomenological approach to the notion of the wild. The wild is what does not obey. It's not submitted to a will. And so what does obey is what a dog is, because a dog is a tamed wolf, literally. And so Pokemon is based on this type of the one who patterns like chaos, because like a wild animal is chaos. And so like you pattern it, that's taming it. And so like essentially all Pokemon is doing is like patterning wild animals because or animals are like monsters, yeah. Let's just say like wild monsters. Because like these monsters, yeah, they will kill you. Like, or they won't kill you in the game, but they'll wipe out your monsters because they're so strong, they're so powerful. Unless they're caught, brought into your team, and then used to be trained and to be like built up from there. The other thing too about all of this is a very basic principle, and that's called the gargoyle. So the gargoyle is obviously an iconic feature of Gothic cathedral architecture. And the basic mythos there is that there was like a bishop in a a village in northern France whose town was like assailed by like a dragon. And did the bishop kill the dragon or something like that? And I think the bishop slew this dragon, and then because of that slaying of that dragon, that's what a gargoyle is like the slain dragon being worn as armor is similar to like Heracles and the lion skin wearing. And it's the same with the bear skins and the berserkers, because the word berserker comes from bearskin wearer, where it's like the bearskin wearer was like the three ancient cults of Europe, the cult to the wolf, the cult to the bear, and the cult to the boar. Well, the bearskin wearer or the berserker is essentially doing this same gargoyle pattern. And so, speaking of that, that's what that's also the principle of immunity, biological immunity, is you take your body at a micro level, it takes a foreign body, kills it, slays a dragon, orders the principle, and then uses its skin or using its as part of it as a buffer, as a shield, as a strength against future attacks. That's literally how the immune system works in the human being, is like by making gargoyles. Like the immune system is basically a gargoyle, like system in a way, because like the cells are like slaying foreign bodies and wearing them uh in future. Um, where did I Where was I going with all this? Well, Pokemon is the like largest or greatest media franchise of all time, above The Lord of the Rings, Harry Potter, Star Wars. I think that's a cultural phenomenon, and it's a cultural phenomenon that is worthy of like explanation. Like it would be cool to like posit some explanations for that. And what I'm hoping to do here is suggest at least one, which is the deep narrative continuity that the game has between some very ancient um, narrative anthropologies, like some of the earliest accounts of what it means to be a human being, created in the image of God, and one who can bring wild creatures of lower order to heed the word, essentially, to heed the word, to heed the logos, to heed the patterning principle, taming, domesticating, bringing into the house. Um, so that's a pattern of divinity. Because divinity, the point would be, is the thing that, not thing, but all creation praises divinity. So in a similar way, all creation is subordinate to divinity. So the human being, all of Earth, is subordinate to the human being on this account in Genesis. And this is very much what Pokemon is about, is going to the fire, going to the water, going to the electric and psychic and ghost and bug and all these type and ice and flying and rock and normal and I don't know. I probably have missed some fairy, maybe steel. Types, these different types, all types. Typology as well is this whole philosophical thing, because types, that gets into Plato's theory of the forms. Because what's a type? A type is something grouped together according to a pattern of intelligibility, something that unifies diverse things. And also, there's like the whole conversation of Empedocles in this, because Empedocles gave us, by the way, sort of through like shamanic visions, because we have like fragments of ecstatic poetry from Empedocles. And he was also thought to be a god who threw himself into Etna. Um, anyway, he gives us this theory of the four elements: fire, air, water, earth. I think it's quite intuitive to consider those four categories and relate them to your experience and see how it might seem that reality is composed of earth, what we stand on, terrestrial, aqua, the waters beyond it and below it and surrounding it and engulfing it, like a leviathan, sorry, or like a great water beast fish, something like that. And then air, the air we breathe, and the air that is also words, because spoken words are breath patterned, and then light and fire and the sun and all of that stuff. And, by virtue of that, we see. Nothing has been seen but by that. Now, in recent times, we've got lights and stuff like this, and we've got stars, but stars are often reflecting the light of the sun. And the sun is the most brilliant of the stars because it's so local to us on Earth. It's a paradigm. It's really not controversial to say that it's a paradigm or a principle of in mind, intelligibility, and light. Anyway, as that's all associated with fire. Anyway, so Empedocles has this scheme of the four elements, right? And a harmonia or a cosmos emerges from their opposition. So, like fire and water and air and earth, they're like in tension with each other. They're opposites. But through the opposites, through the play of these opposites, the whole of the cosmos emerges, according to Empedocles. And you see this in the seasons. So an element predominates each season as time cycles round. So that seems to sort of check out from the viewpoint of Empedocles. But how's this got to do with Pokemon? Well, like similar thing, like type matching in Pokemon is like a battle dynamic, and it's all about just matching the elements. Okay, which is kind of magic, by the way. It's just a kind of natural magic. It's not like a big deal, but it's like, you match an element to counter an element. That's a kind of power. You're affecting a kind of enhancement of nature, a perfection of nature by selecting the right type. And so this type matching is huge in Pokemon battling, which is a big part of the game's multiplayer dynamic. I'm talking about the Pokemon games, by the way, Pokemon Red, Blue, Yellow, Gold, Silver, Crystal, and Fire Red, Leaf Green, um, up through like Ruby, Sapphire, Emerald, and these games on Pokemon on Game Boy, sorry, which is the origin for the entire world and narrative of Pokemon, is the Game Boy. Um, okay, so what have we got? So we've got this idea of like taming, making something our pet, or like bringing into our house, and domesticating. That is a pattern of order and chaos, basically, because you're encountering wild monsters. That's what the game is. The game is you encounter wild monsters and you tame wild monsters. And ideally, you tame them in a fashion that develops the fullest branch of the tree because oak has given you a seed. And through that seed, you can bring forth like a multi-branched tree. And that multi-branching of the tree is a differentiation from like a higher unity. So unity and difference is the basic of like logic. Um, yeah, how logical structures work is like you have a higher unity and you have branching binary disjuncts branching out from that from that. So this is true or it's not true. There's a branching. Um anyway, not to get too much into logic. Um yeah. What have I said? I've essentially just said like that Pokemon's engaging in a very deep story and a deep narrative in the human mind that's uh, preserved in the Book of Genesis and concerns the nature of the human being. And Pokemon speaks very deeply to our humanity because it understands the impulse to tame or to pattern, to order, to make a cosmos out of a chaos. Making a cosmos out of a chaos is a very powerful thing to do. And then also like the elemental stuff in type matching has to do with a kind of natural magic where you're pitting a certain element against another element, which is more powerful than that element. And that's how battles are won. Um, yeah. So hope you enjoyed that. Would like be really interested in any questions or comments. Cheers.